All right, let's talk about what really scares us. We're about to dive into the nature of fear itself, not with fiction, but through four deeply unsettling and very true stories. We're going to go on a journey, starting with those chilling supernatural whispers and ending somewhere much, much closer to home.
So, let me ask you this. What truly gets under your skin? Is it the thing you can't explain, that specter you see out of the corner of your eye? Or is it the horrifying moment you realize the most dangerous monster might be someone you know, someone you actually trust? That's the question we're going to explore tonight.
So here's our roadmap into the dark. We're going to kick things off with a classic haunting, in The Ghost in the Mirror. Then, things get way more personal in The Shadow in Brazil. After that, the horror gets disturbingly real with The Neighbor from Hell. And we'll end with the most terrifying thing of all, a story of ultimate betrayal in The Last Phone Call.
Okay, our first stop is a university campus. You know the kind. A place with a reputation that's as old and unsettling as the buildings themselves. This is where that line between campus legend and reality gets really, really blurry. So, get this. The university has this odd thing for the color pink, but it also has these chilling stories about what happens after 6 p.m. Two students, Mary and her friend, are pulling a late night for a project in a building that's already soaked in ghost stories. They're about to find out if those whispers are true.
Mary's in the restroom, and she glances up at the mirror. Just a quick look. But in the reflection of the stalls behind her, she sees something. A woman's head. It's not some shadow, it's a clear figure, hair pulled up in a bun, wearing a long dress, peeking over the top of a stall that she knows is empty and locked.
Now this is where it goes from a spooky story to something that'll give you chills for life. A few days later, Mary is walking past a gallery of old portraits, and she just freezes, because staring back at her from one of the paintings is the exact same woman she saw in that mirror. It's the school's foundress. The campus legend just walked right out of the history books and into her reality.
Okay, so our next story takes us from a ghost that just observes to something way more direct. This is where the paranormal threat becomes targeted and intensely personal.
So, picture this. 16-year-old Gabriella is in England, just having a normal video chat with her sister, who's thousands of miles away in Brazil. It's just a regular conversation until her sister suddenly stops, her eyes locked on something just outside the window. A man, holding an umbrella, just standing there, perfectly still in the pouring rain.
Gabriella's mind is racing. A ghost? Some local urban legend? But then her sister says something that completely changes the game. He has a shadow. That one detail rips this whole thing out of the supernatural world and slams it right into terrifying reality. This isn't a ghost, it's a real person. And somehow, that's so much scarier. And from there, things escalate fast. So on day 1, we had the disturbing sighting in Brazil. But on day 2, back in England, Gabriella makes a really, really bad decision. Her sister is begging her not to, but she and her friends use a Ouija board, and she asks about the man in Brazil. By day 3, her life is a living nightmare.
The consequences were immediate, and they were terrifying. Lights started switching off while she was in the shower. She'd hear voices whispering her name when she was totally alone, and then it got physical. She started finding these unexplained bruises on her knees. Whatever she invited into her home that night, it wasn't a game. It got so bad that the activity only stopped after her mom got a priest to come and bless the entire house.
All right, we're making a shift now. Forget ghosts, forget Ouija boards. We're moving from the supernatural to the psychological. Our next story is about a monster who is 100% human. A chilling reminder that sometimes the biggest threat is living right next door.
So there's this guy named Henry, living in a quiet part of Tokyo. But his peace is completely shattered by the man in the house next door. The rundown place with the rusted door and overgrown weeds. The landlord says the guy is hardly ever home, but Henry just can't shake this creepy feeling that he's being watched.
It all starts with a silent knock on the door. Henry waits, nobody answers. He figures they just left. The next morning, though, as he's heading to work, he finds his own name, Henry, scrawled in what looks like red lipstick right on the wall next to his door. The only person who even knew his name was the landlord, and she swore she never told the neighbor.
And then the terror just cranks up to 11. One weekend, Henry is woken up by this deafening, grinding, revving sound coming from right outside his door.
He listens, and his blood just runs cold. It's a chainsaw. And then, a loud knock.
Henry is terrified, obviously, and he screams through the door that he's calling the police. The neighbor, who is still revving the chainsaw, either doesn't hear him or just flat out doesn't care. When the cops finally show up, the guy just calmly tells them he was cutting a tree and wanted to say hi. Just a complete and terrifying lie.
This is the final haunting image. As Henry is finally moving out, packing up his truck, he just happens to glance over at the neighbor's house. And the man is standing there, in the window, smiling. And in his hand, he's holding a small, limp rabbit, its fur all matted with fresh blood. It was a final, silent, and deeply disturbing message.
From the monster next door, we now move to the monster on the other end of the phone. Our last story starts out like a horror movie trope we all know, a home invasion. But the real horror isn't the guy breaking in, it's the person you would never, ever suspect.
Marcus and his girlfriend Hila are in the middle of this really nasty argument over the phone. Just a typical angry fight. Then all of a sudden, her whole tone changes. She whispers, "Someone is here." And in that instant, the argument just evaporates, replaced by pure, absolute terror.
Marcus is just frozen on the other end of the line, a helpless witness. He can hear shuffling, he can hear Isla's terrified breathing, he hears her bedroom door creak open. He knows it's too late. And then, she manages to whisper these final words before the line goes dead and the screaming starts.
The police find the bodies of Hila and her mother. They bring Marcus in for questioning since he was the last one to talk to her. They ask him the one obvious question. You heard everything happen. Why didn't you call for help? He tells them this story about how he was just paralyzed with fear, that he couldn't bring himself to hang up on her.
And this is where the story shatters. Because we hear Marcus's internal thought. They believed me. Good. That is not the thought of a traumatized boyfriend. That's the relief of a liar who just gave the performance of his life.
And here is the final, brutal truth. Isla had been cheating on him. That fight, that frantic phone call, it was all an act, a performance. Marcus wasn't a helpless bystander. He was the architect of her murder. He had arranged for an accomplice to go to her house and do it. He listened to her die, knowing full well that he was the one who signed her death warrant.
Which brings us right back to where we started. After hearing these stories, what's the real source of fear? Is it the specter in the mirror, or some entity you summoned by mistake? Or is it the smiling neighbor with blood on his hands? Is it the loving boyfriend who's secretly a monster? So I'll ask you again, what truly haunts you? The specters and the shadows, or the secrets hidden inside the people you think you know?